Hello viewers, you're welcome to this tutorial. So we're learning looping statements today. In the previous tutorial we learned about the conditional statement. All right, so you mentioned, oh sorry, you encountered the if statement, the else statement, the elif statement. Okay, so if you've not really watched the tutorial, just go back to it. But if you are good with if, elif and else statement, then you're just at a good place to continue. All right, so what's the difference between the looping statement and the if statement? Now looping simply means you're starting from a point and you go over and come back to the same point, you come back to the same point. So loop is just like a loop. All right, something like the yo-yo. You pull it down, it comes up, you push it down, it comes up. I don't really know how that works but the looping simply means going through something over and over and over again. Okay, so that is how just the looping statement works. So the difference between looping and the if statement, so now bear in mind, looping statement is a conditional statement, but the best name I can give to it is looping conditional statement. Okay, I think this is a good name for it. So it's also a conditional statement because it's based by conditions. Okay, but it's basically a looping conditional statement, a condition that loops, that goes on over and over again unless the condition is false. Okay, so if you went through the if tutorials, you really understand that it only executes if it is false, it is true. Okay, if it is false, the if statement is kind of jumped to an elif statement or an else statement. If you are still confused with this elif and else, just go back to the previous tutorial about conditional statement. Okay, so now this is the basic difference between them. The if statement only executes a condition once. So if you have a condition like if 4 equals 4, okay, if 4 equals 4, and remember the indentation, don't really mind the indentation, sorry. So the if statement is if 4 equals 4, then print hello. Okay, so this will only print hello once. All right, so this is what the if statement basically does. It's just print the hello once to the user. But the looping statement, which I'll show you the syntax if we go back to the code, or when we go back to the coding aspect, it will kind of print the hello countless times, because 4 is equals 4. Okay, 4 is definitely equal to 4. So to be printing the hello, this hello, to print it and print it and print it unless your computer goes off, low battery. All right, so that is how it really works. So the difference between the if statement is the if only print it once, or the if executes it functions once if the condition is true. Okay, but the looping statement to kind of execute it countless and countless of time if only the condition is true. Okay, so do we really need a looping statement in our code? Yeah, we really need a looping statement when we're dealing with going through an iterable. Okay, now this is not a new word. When we're dealing with list, I made mention of this term, an iterable. Okay, so if you've not really known what an iterable, let me just explain it. So an iterable is an object that is able to pass its values. Okay, so it's able to pass its values. Okay, so an iterable is any object that is able to pass its values for use. So an example of an iterable is a list, another example is a range, and another example is tuple, okay, and dictionaries. All right, all these things are objects and things will be used in classes, will be used in Python. Okay, so you're already conversant with lists. We might go through range, we'll definitely go through ranges, and tuple and dictionaries, we might understand them as we begin the GUI development and we go more technical. All right, so what is what is an iterable? You already know what an iterable is. So anything that can pass its values. So if we have a list like print, so these are names in a list. We have Na. All right, we have Ashrafi. Okay, we have James. We have in any other name. Okay, we have Priscilla. All right, so this is a list. Okay, each one of these values is represented by an index. So if you call this list, it is capable of being able to pass its values to you. So it can pass the first one index 0, it can pass the second one index 1, it can pass index 2, so it can be passing all this one. So this is where we need a for loop, because the if statement will only check if a value is in the list, but the for loop will request for the individual values, so it kind of does something with them. Okay, that's the looping statement. It's kind of able to request the individual values, so anything it has to do, it does with them. So this is what is called an iterable. Okay, so a list is an iterable, range is an iterable, all these things are iterable because you are capable of going through them and they are capable of passing their values to you. Okay, so it's kind of tit for tat, you blend, I blend. All right, so this is the basic thing you need to know. So there are two kinds of looping conditional statement. The first one is the for loop, and the second one is the while loop. All right, so in almost every programming language, C++ also has this looping statement. Okay, but in Python, the looping statement works actually different. Okay, the looping statement works actually different. The for loop works different from the while loop. Okay, so we'll understand it much better when we go through the code, because this mode of execution is different from the while loop's mode of execution. Each one of them works so differently. Each one of them has an advantage and a disadvantage. Okay, so in the technical or the practical session, which is the next tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to implement the for loop and the while loop and the advantages of each one of them. Okay, so you'll be able to appreciate it. So that is how Python works. Python's for loop is so interesting, unlike other for loops in other programming languages. They are all good, but Python has a way of using its for loop in a very nice way. All right, so implement this tool. If you're done with for loop and while loop, you're good to go to the next tutorial. So just watch out for the next one, and this is just an explanation of what a looping conditional statement truly is. Okay, so this is just for it. Watch out for the next tutorial. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and get all updates. Like the videos if they are helpful to you, and just be expectant of the next tutorial. Just up there, you can check up on it. Thanks.